What's up everyone, it's Andreas from Shots AG here, and obviously we're in my room right now. Not the video I was planning on making for the classics trip, but I was editing the recap that I was doing, and it was just so boring. I was getting bored of listening to myself kind of recap everything. It was very repetitive, it was very monotone. I didn't like that. I was just exhausted, and the recap style video was just not coming out how I was hoping to. And also, if it did come out, it was going to be something that I was not going to be proud of, and something that I knew people probably weren't going to enjoy just because it was very, very long. Again, it was repetitive, and it was not the right move. So I kind of combined two ideas that I already had. So obviously I wanted to do the recap style video of the trip, the experience, talk about anything I learned, anything that stood out to me, just kind of fill you guys in on what happened, what I did, how it felt, stuff like that. And then I also wanted to do a video where I kind of take you guys through some of my favorite photos from each session and from the weekend overall. So I figured I would combine that and show you guys some of the photos I took while also kind of analyzing them, explaining them a little bit, and kind of filling you guys in on the trip as a whole and the experience. So sorry to those of you looking forward to the vlog. It is not going to be a vlog, but I hope that you guys can still enjoy this. So let's get right into this. I'm going to try to analyze my photos a little bit. We got my mom's iPad here, which I just figured it was going to look more professional and be a little easier to kind of draw on there, kind of what I see in the moment, and talk about a little bit of the edits that I made to each photo. So Friday morning, I leave my family's house. They drop me off, and then as soon as I got there, I got my credential, and this is just sick. I don't even know why. It's just really cool. But yeah, so I get my credential. I go out and I introduce myself to the rest of the media people there. A lot of really cool people. I had a lot of great conversations throughout the week. So after that, I got a little bit of a rundown on photo spots where I can stand, certain rules that I have to follow, which was nice to get before, and I got a little map of where I can stand, and that was very, very useful in terms of planning ahead, being able to coordinate before the session on where I was going to go, where I wanted to stand, who I wanted to capture. So I get there, I set up my little workstation on the media table that's overlooking the entire arena. It's super, super cool. I plug everything in, I get ready to go, I get my camera out, clean it, get ready. And the first two sessions were back-to-back practice sessions, training sessions for the senior women who were competing the following day. So this is Friday, so they would have been competing on Saturday. The photo rules and media rules were a little less strict. For example, this was the only time that you could capture video, and the places where you can stand weren't as strict. As long as you were out of the way and weren't super, super up close, you were probably fine. Just because, there's less people out on the floor. It's not that strict. It's not being broadcasted. There's no audience, stuff like that. You were a little more free to move around, just as long as you were still out of the way and kind of near the general photo area spots that they had mentioned before. So this being a practice session and not super strict, I figured this would be a good time to familiarize myself with the 70 to 180 lens that I brought with me, because again, I had never used it before, and to all lenses there's a learning curve. I feel like you have to familiarize yourself with the focal length and just how to incorporate your style into that lens. So that's what I did. I put the 70 to 180 lens on my Nikon ZF, and I got to shooting with it, and I hated it. I did not like it at all. It was definitely a struggle this first session, just because I'd never used it before, and I wasn't getting images that I liked or I wanted to get with this lens, if that makes sense. It wasn't really my style, and so I didn't like it. I took the lens off midway through the first training session, I believe, and I went back to what I know best, which is my 28 to 75 lens, and I started capturing some images that I really, really liked during the two practice sessions. So let me get this screen recording going so I can show y'all some of the images I was able to capture. So let's start off with this one. This one was shot on this one was a 70 to 180 shot. So this was probably one of the earlier shots. Now, it's a very, very basic shot, but I think it's some solid composition. Obviously, I'm biased because I took the photo, but this was on beam, obviously, training, as I said. And I don't know, something about this shot, I just love the composition of it. Let's see if I can get some marker here. So one of the things that first jumps out to me about this photo is this logo back here. I love using logos or incorporating logos in the background of images. I don't know, some people don't, some people hate it. I think it's cool, especially when it's like the title of the meet. I love when you can incorporate that into a photo of an athlete. I think it tells more of a story. It kind of lets you know where you're at in this moment, what's going on, stuff like that. Now you have the logo, you have an empty arena, which you can obviously assume it's like a practice. It's very laid back, stuff like that. Again, another logo. Now, some people may think this is a lot of negative space on these areas, these outer areas. I think negative space can be a good thing sometimes because it just highlights your subject a little bit more. It depends how you use it. I personally don't use it a whole lot, but when I do, I feel like I use it to highlight my subject just a little bit more. So obviously here we got the beam kind of leading you into the subject, serving as our leading line of the image. And I think it works. You know, you start kind of looking up here at the title, then your eyes kind of get drawn to the beam, and then brings you this way, right to the athlete. Nothing crazy, not a crazy pose, not a crazy skill, just kind of capturing the moment. The use of black and white on this, I think it elevates it just a little more. It adds a little more dramatic effect to the photo. Something else I didn't notice until after I was editing was the coach. The coach right there, kind of with a bit of a stern look, kind of a little focused on what his athlete is doing. I think that adds a little bit more to the story. I love how his head is just peeking through just the slightest bit. So let's go on to the next image here. I might just kind of slide by some of them and not go into super in-depth detail, but we'll see. Here's another image. This one screams 70 to 180. Let's check it out. 70 to 180. What did I tell you? No. This one is obviously a very close up of a skill being done by an athlete on the bars. And I don't know, I've never really experimented with major close-ups like this. If you know my work or if you've seen my gymnastics work, you know I tend to go a little bit wider and I don't really get that many detail shots. Obviously, I had the long lens here. I was experimenting with it, figuring out what I like, what I don't like. And I don't know, this image, I love that you can see the chalk from when she caught the bars. Well, she hasn't even gotten to wrap her hands around the bars yet, but I love the chalk. I think it's a very dramatic image. Again, with the black and white, it just highlights your subject a little more. It gets rid of all those color distractions. And yeah, I like it. This one, okay, this one was definitely, yeah, with my 28 to 75 millimeter lens. This is when I started shooting a little bit more my style, more kind of what I like. I mean, this to me really screams my style. This is a good representation of what I like to shoot, how I like to shoot. Obviously it's gymnastics, but it's a very abstract image. You know, you got your starbursts of the light there, which I love. I love when I'm able to get those starbursts in either natural sunlight through like the branches or in arenas like this. I think they just look cool. I love how the people in the back are completely still and we only have the athlete running forward. I love that. I think it only further emphasizes the movement going on in this image, and I think it just works. I love how they're centered in the frame. And let's get rid of some of these. As I mentioned before, I love my logos, especially the meet. So I love that you can see the title of the meet that we're at, the US Classic, and you got more logos back there. Tells a great story. You know, she's running on the vault. She's at the US Classic, training because there's no audience, and I think it's a perfect representation of my style and the type of images that I'm able to create when I'm shooting with a lens that I'm comfortable with and that I like. This one I absolutely loved. Again, we're on vault, we got the logo in the back, and I love the pose that she's in. I caught her mid-run right in the moment. Her arm is stretched out, her leg is extended. It's just a great moment to have captured. I love how the use of her leg and her arm kind of frame, again, the title of the meet. I think it's so great. It's a great pose, great moment. And yeah, I think it highlights the level of athleticism that gymnasts have. This one is, again, another slow shutter speed. I won't bore y'all, but you can see I love my abstract images and starburst, the colors. She's wearing a blue Leo and it kind of matched well with the logo in the back and the little highlights the starburst has. I loved it. Here is a wide angle shot that I got, and with this one, I think my favorite part is the coach over here, kind of leaning back, unsure as to whether she's gonna catch it or not. He's just ready to see, you know, he's bracing himself for whatever happens next. And I think it's a great moment, perfectly captures those feelings in gymnastics when you're just kind of like, are they gonna make it? Or, you know, again, it's a wide angle shot. It's what I'm used to, what I love doing. I love that you can see the clouds of chalk there. I love the other coaches looking in her direction, seeing like, oh, is she gonna catch it? Is she gonna, like, what's gonna happen? Definitely like this image a lot. This one, I just felt like it was a very dramatic image. You know, she's getting ready to take her turn on the uneven bars. I think the bar frames her extremely well. One thing I wish I could have done better is I wish, if you can see, I think she lines up pretty well with the center of the frame, but the bar doesn't quite line up well. It looks a little bit sideways, and I just wish that tiny little detail was just an inch over this way. But that's just me being a perfectionist, asking for too much. I think her being center framed is okay enough for this image. This one is super cool. I love, again, the athleticism that's being showcased here. I love the coaches kind of, again, looking over at her, being like, oh, or like looking at her turn, you know. I love that we can see her face. She's ready to spot the ground and land. Again, love the clouds of chalk, starburst. Speaking technically as a gymnast, she's very tight in the air. She's got her toes pointed. I think it's a great representation of this sport. This one, what can I say? I just loved the emotion being shown by the athlete here. The smile, I love the logos in the back. Can't say too much. The beam serving as our leading line, kind of leading our eye into the subject and really just highlighting our subject just a little bit more, being like, hey, this is what I want you to focus on, this athlete right here. Can't say too much. This one, I think this one is one of my favorites of the entire weekend, just because it tells a great story. It's a wide angle shot, again, like most of these first ones are. I love that I was able to incorporate her coach into this image. You know, again, he's looking at his athlete, ready for anything. She's doing her dismount, obviously, off the bars. I love that the starburst here kind of hides her face a little bit, so you can't really tell like who exactly it is. I love the clouds of chalk, and I just think it tells a great story, you know, athlete taking her turn on the bars, her coach being there for her, ready to help her in whatever she needs. This one, this one is super cool. I think she was doing her series on the beam, and she just perfectly frames the logo that's on the screen in the back, and it's just amazing. It shows the athleticism here and with the athlete. Something I also love doing when I'm shooting gymnastics is incorporating either the teammates or the coaches, as I did in this last one, or the judges. I love incorporating the judges in whatever way I can. I have a few that I've taken of my own team where I kind of get behind the judge as they're saluting, and I frame my teammate in between like the judge. So you have the judge saluting, you have your teammate saluting, and it just tells a great story. It's a great image, and I love doing that. So I did kind of the same thing here, framing the athlete between these two people who I'm assuming were the judges, and it just tells it adds a little bit more to your image. It adds a little bit more to the story. You know, you have these two people in your foreground watching her. That's another thing, having people in front of you, it just creates a little bit, or not only people, but even objects or just something in your foreground. It always creates more depth, and it always makes your images a little bit more interesting, in my opinion, just because you have your foreground, you have your middle ground with the athlete and the beam, and then you have your background with the screen. So it just creates that level of depth that you don't always see in a lot of images, that I think is very special, and it's very unique if done well. Yeah, so the podium training sessions finished, and I went right back to the media table where I had my little workstation set up, and I started editing all the photos, or not all the photos, some of the photos that I took to send over a quick little gallery and to also make a post for the page on Instagram. This was a lot more stressful than I had expected, just because I had like just finished shooting. I had to run back to the table, download everything, go through the images as fast as I could, make sure I picked out good ones, edited them, and then like made sure that all the edits were good, the white balance was good, stuff like that, just little things, and then send them out and then make the post. It doesn't sound like a lot, but in the moment it was very fast paced, and it was like go. In this time, I also told myself that I would go back to using the 70 to 180 lens, just because they had mentioned before that once the sessions started, like the actual competition sessions started, that the rules on where you could stand were going to be a little more strict. I wasn't going to have the luxury of kind of being able to get just a little bit closer to the apparatus or the athletes or whatever. And so I figured it would be a good decision to stick to the 70 to 180 for competition sessions. So another reason as to why I decided it would be more beneficial to switch over to the 70 to 180 lens was just because I knew the style of photo that I needed to submit. I obviously had to deliver a good product to the people that hired me, and the photos were most likely going to be used to like promote the athlete, highlight the athlete, for graphics, for more commercial use where you want to see the athlete. So it wouldn't make sense to shoot like I was doing in warm-ups, for example, very abstract in some cases, or from very far away, because you need those close-ups to make the graphics, to promote the athlete, stuff like that. And so I figured with the 70 to 180 lens, I was going to be able to capture more of the images that they're kind of looking for. That was pretty much it after the first 2 training sessions. And then I got ready for the first official session of the competition. This session was optional for me. I was given the option to either shoot it if I had the chance and I was able to and I was feeling up for it, or if I didn't shoot it, it wasn't going to be the end of the world. They didn't need coverage for this specific session. But I was already in the venue. I was having a lot of fun doing this, and I figured I might as well get them more coverage. Next image. Again, I loved being able to incorporate the coach into the story. I loved the skill being done. Very, very acrobatic. But I love her looking kind of in this direction towards the bar, ready to catch it. Her coach kind of analyzing her turn, deciding in literally milliseconds whether he needs to step in and help or whether his athlete is going to be okay and going to be able to successfully complete the skill. Again, very clean position in the air, which only adds to the photo. The chalk clouds, I love that little detail that is in a lot of these photos. And you have her body kind of serving as a leading line, maybe. That might be a bit of a stretch, but you can see it that way. If you start over here, it kind of leads you down this way, and then it leads you down to the coach, and it tells you a complete kind of story of what's going on in this image. This one was again super cool to be able to incorporate the coach with the athlete. You have a little pre-routine pep talk here. I'm sure a lot of the athletes were nervous competing at this high level during their routines, and so it was a very cool interaction to see, and I just had to get a photo just because it was very wholesome. I just thought it was a very, very cool moment that I'm sure a lot of athletes, a lot of gymnasts are able to relate to. The following session, which was the junior session. Now this was the first session of the entire meet that I was like actually tasked to photograph, and so I was given a list, as I had mentioned previously, of key athletes and key routines to take pictures of. And so this was obviously the first session where that kind of all went into play. And the nice thing about that was, apart from the map we got that kind of highlights all the photo spots that we were allowed to be in, we got rotation sheets that let you know where each athlete is going to be at each rotation. And so I think here I just underlined what athletes I was tasked with shooting. So that was super, super helpful, and it helped me move more efficiently in between rotations. So I wasn't caught at the end of the first rotation and having to look through my sheet and waste time kind of planning out where I was going to go. Whereas here I already knew which events I was going to go to before the meet even started. So I already knew, like, okay, rotation 1 ends, I'm going to walk this way, and then place myself here to be able to capture the first athlete on this event, and then the fourth athlete on this event, and then back to the first event I was shooting. Just kind of plan out my shots a little more so I can solely focus on the photographs in that moment and not be like, okay, wondering where I'm gonna go. Back to our images. So this one, as I said, was the junior session. I think it was my favorite image of the entire weekend out of all of them. It was super impressive to see. It looks super athletic. It looks super elegant in her routine. I was told about the skill, I think like the day before. I was told that like it's called a scorpion turn. It's in this specific athlete's routine. She's one of the only people who does it, and it's just a very unique skill. Let me tell you, when I saw it, like my jaw was on the floor. It was super, super cool to see. I was not expecting it, or I was, but I just didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what the turn looked like. This was my first time ever seeing one done in a routine, and it just looks super, super cool. Now, this is my favorite for a few reasons. First of all, the composition itself. We got some rule of thirds going here. We have our flag in the top left square, and then we have her kind of in the middle but also kind of in the lower right corner of our frame, which I think balances out super well, because you have your flag up top and then you have your athlete down at the bottom, filled with that negative space. It's just pure black. I think it looks super cool. It highlights both elements of the image, both the athlete and the flag in the background, extremely well. And it was just such a cool frame to have captured. And I strategically placed myself in this corner, knowing that the flag was going to be in the background of some of her images. I did, however, luck out with the fact that she did her turn right in the corner, like nearest to me. And so I was able to frame her super well. That junior session ended at about, I want to say 10:20. And I went back to the media table, downloaded the photos, edited. I called my Uber to go back to the hotel when I got back to the table as well. But I figured I would at least download all the photos there. And so I got back to my hotel at about like 11-ish. I was, however, super tired. I had a lot of photos to get through to send that gallery. I send right after the session finishes. It's usually about like 30 photos. And so that's literally what I focused on for the rest of my night. And I was exhausted. It's funny because when I first got to the venue and I checked in and I got the credential, I took a photo that I sent to my family of me kind of holding it next to my face. And after I finished editing that junior gallery to send out in my hotel, I took the same photo with the credential, and I like the before and after is super funny. So the following day, I got up to go get breakfast, and then I spent a little bit of the morning just kind of getting through some of the photos, not specifically from the junior session, just kind of, I think I went back and started from podium training sessions that I had shot, just to go chronologically. And then I got ready to go. I left for the venue. I got there at about noonish, and I set my station back up. Now, if you saw my Instagram, you know that while I was in Chicago with my family, we came across a camera store, and originally I was not planning on shooting film at this competition, but at this camera store they had a whole lot of film, and I figured I would pick some up and see what I can shoot. So I ended up finishing my roll of Cinestill 800T that I had already preloaded in my Minolta, and I only had about half left, so it wasn't super difficult to finish throughout the city. And so I figured I would pick up a roll of Ilford 3200 black and white film to shoot at the gymnastics competition. Now, the first day I shot 0 film. I didn't even load the film in. But the second day, I kind of told myself I would shoot during the warm-up periods of both senior sessions. I would shoot half of the roll of film in the first warm-up session and the other half in the second. And in addition to this, I was also going to shoot with my 28-75 to allow myself to be a little more creative and shoot a little bit more kind of my style. So yeah, I got to the venue, I loaded up my Minolta. I had a little bit of spare time before the first session started their actual event warm-up time. And so I spent that time editing, I spent that time cleaning my camera, just getting ready for the shoot. Once they started kind of warming up, that's when I grabbed both my film camera and my Nikon ZF with the 28-75mm lens on to go out and just shoot freely with no specific people in mind, no specific compositions in mind, no routines, just kind of shoot whatever looked interesting and kind of really lean into the artistic side of my style. It was honestly super fun. I came out with a bunch of great images. So this one, obviously from the Nikon, I don't have my film back. I dropped it off last week. I dropped off 3 rolls that I had, including the roll of Ilford 3200 that I had shot. So here it's a slow shutter speed image, Nikon ZF 28-75 at 2.8 and 1/115th of a second for the shutter speed. Now, I love my slow shutter speed photos because I love how abstract they are. They're not very traditional, and I think they're just very hard to get right. I definitely fail a lot at them. When I nail them, I think they look just amazing. It's obviously in black and white, which I always do intentionally. It's funny because my friends will ask me, how do you decide which ones go in black and white and which ones don't? I'm obviously a Marvel nerd, so I tell them it's like the Spidey sense. It's my Spidey sense that kind of tells me which images would benefit from being in black and white. I can't really explain it. It's literally just a feeling. Like I'll look at a picture in color and be like, nope, this is a black and white image. And it also just helps highlight the subject, the story a little more. I think sometimes they look a lot cleaner and can be a lot more impactful. So in this one, obviously black and white intentionally. We have our judge here in the foreground, which again creates that depth. So we have foreground, middle ground, background, creating that depth. And I love how there's no motion blur on her. She's out of focus. The beam is still, obviously, and we only have our athlete in motion. And I think it perfectly captures this moment. I love how, again, you can't really tell who it is. It's not about who it is, but it's more so about the moment. Again, I love my abstract shots. This one, a lot of people could say it's bad. It was intentionally slow shutter speed. Looking at it, I think it turned out great. I love kind of the shape that she's creating with her flip. I love this arc. I think it's just very cool, very abstract. Another one, very similar to the black and white version of this. I just think the blues here go well together because we have the blue of her suit, the blue and the sign in the back. We have the blue on her Leo, the blue on the flag, the blue kind of in the atmosphere due to the lights. Not only that, but contrasts well with the color of the beam and the color of the judge's hair. All the colors in this image go very well together, and it just seemed like an image that would do better in color rather than in black and white. So those are it for the session 1 warm-up period. And a little bit before the actual competition, I went back to the media table and I was studying the list of athletes I had to capture. And this time I got the rotation sheet. And again, very similar to how I showed y'all before, I coded the sheet, I pre-planned my photo spots so that I wouldn't be caught up in the moment and just have one more thing to worry about, if that makes sense. And so here, the underlined athletes in blue are just kind of key athletes that I had to look out for. No specific event, just kind of, if I'm in that area, I would shoot them. And then the red star was for athletes whose routine was like a key routine on that event. So for example, the first athlete on bars and the second athlete on beam were like key routines that I had to get photos of. Now, a lot of the time, especially if it was bars and like beam in this case, they were on complete opposite sides of the venue, and so it was pretty hard to kind of decide who to give priority to. But the way I started doing it was, if a certain athlete had another key routine somewhere later on in the competition, I would give priority to the other athlete if they didn't have another key routine coming up. And if they did, I just kind of looked at what other events I had athletes listed on here. I planned out what events I was going to be on prior to getting to those events. It was very helpful, and it helped me be a lot more efficient when the rotation ended. I knew exactly where I was going. I didn't have to like look confused or get in anyone's way. After the rotation ended, I could just go straight to where I was planning on going next. So yeah, let's get to looking at some of the session 1 images. So this one right here, again, it's in black and white. I always think black and white will make an image kind of look a little bit more dramatic, and in this case, I think it does a good job. I think it fits the moment very well. We have our athlete here, we have our beam leading line, as I've said before. We even have some rule of thirds action going on here with our athlete based kind of on this side of our grid, and we have her looking down at the beam, bracing herself, getting ready to do this next skill. It just creates a very dramatic moment. She looks focused, she looks locked, and it's a cool image. There's not a whole lot I can say for a lot of these. I try to be critical of my work, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to like not think in your own style when you're looking back at your work, if that makes sense. So it's always easier to have peers kind of review them. I'll ask my dad for like his feedback on certain images, or he'll give me his feedback sometimes. And it's funny because he'll tell me certain things that he noticed in the image that could be better in his opinion, or that he would have done differently. That's a better way of phrasing it. Disclaimer: this is not me being like super cocky and being like, oh yeah, my pictures are always perfect. No, photos are obviously art. Art is subjective. The photos that I choose to edit are not all the photos I took. There were a lot of bad ones. I'll tell you guys my ratio of photos at the end of this video. But no, by no means am I trying to claim that my photos are perfect every single time. No, they're just the best ones that I took in my opinion, and the ones I like the most. And I edit them how I think they look best. So let's get back into the images. And this next one is also on beam. Again, it's during the session 1. And I think this is just great composition and tells a great story here. We have our athlete, again, on the right hand side of our grid. We have our judges, which, as I mentioned before, I always love to include in images when I'm able to, because they just it's another element to add into your image. It tells a better story. We have the audience back here with their phones out, family, friends, or just fans ready to witness this athlete perform her routine. And I think it's perfectly balanced because we have our athlete here again, separated by the beam, separating all the other elements of the photo. This one was on the floor exercise. This is again still the same session, and similar to the one with the scorpion turn, I just think it's great, great framing, great use of background. We have our athlete here with a lot of negative space. I love that it was super dark, and it just highlighted our athlete that much more. Black and white, because it just makes it so that your audience focuses on your subject. It highlights your subject a little more. It eliminates all other distractions and relies solely on how good your framing and your composition was in this moment and for this image. This is another one of my favorites from the entire weekend. I think it's a very dramatic image, and I loved it. I loved taking it. Like in the moment I took it, and I saw the moment kind of in real time from her routine. I just knew it was gonna be a cool, very cool photo. We have logos in the back. We have our athlete framed perfectly in the center of our image, our grid. I love the pose that she's in, kind of just a very powerful pose in my opinion. We have all the audience members to both sides. I think it's super cool. Okay, so this next image is from senior session 2 warm-up period. So this is where I shot the second roll of film and where I switched out my lens to shoot with the 28-75. Now, after that first session, there were no awards, and so the session ends, and I was able to run right back to the media table and get to editing, get to sending out the photos, get to posting. So that was really cool. And I had a while in between that first and second session on Saturday. There were only, I believe, 12 athletes in each session competing. So it went by quick, and so that just gave me more time in between sessions to edit my photos and to even just to take a little mental break, which I needed. So this next image again is from the warm-up period in session 2. This was with the 28-75 at 28 millimeters f2.8. Let me take y'all through this. So on vault, during the podium training and the warm-ups, I was able to get kind of closer to the apparatus and go fully 28 millimeters, which I absolutely love doing, because I always feel like it adds more intensity when you have this wide angle look, just because it makes it look like that much more impactful, I guess. Like you just have a lot more, and it looks cooler, in my opinion. But yeah, we got the starbursts of the arena lights there, and then we have our athlete pretty close to our center there. Rough estimate, but yeah, we got our athlete there. She's obviously the only one in the air, so it's very easy to know who the subject is in this image. Very clean in the air. I love that she's facing us too. I think it's very cool. So this next one, it's just a portrait, nothing super crazy. I don't know, I just liked it. I loved the colors and the framing. I loved how she's kind of just looking off in the photo. She's straight in center. She was coming towards the corner I was kind of in. I don't know. you can't hate a classic portrait shot. I can't say too much. This one was really cool. This one is Hesley Rivera on floor, which if you don't know, she went to the Olympics in Paris 2024. She obviously won gold with that team. So she was one of the bigger names at this competition. I love the leap she was in. She's in our kind of right-hand side of the grid, but that was intentional. I did that just to kind of highlight all the eyes that were on her. You know, her being an Olympic medalist, obviously you're gonna get some audience members in there that are sometimes even just solely there just to watch her compete. So I wanted to kind of capture that energy, capture that essence that she has and that she brought to this meet. So we have her doing her leap while the entire crowd, literally, I mean, pretty much the entire crowd is watching her. All eyes on her, and I just thought that was super unique, definitely super impactful, and it was just really cool to see and to be able to capture this. So here we got our last 2 images. We're down to our last 2 images. This one, can't say too much about it. I loved the moment. You can definitely tell that they have a good coach-athlete relationship. You know, he's hyping her up before. I think this was her last routine. She's smiling, she's ready to go. We got the fist bump there, the chalk kind of flying, we got the bars in the back. I just think this is a great image that perfectly captures kind of their energy and who they are and what they mean to each other as coach and athlete. This is probably another one of my favorite images from the weekend. It was during the national anthem, and again, I loved the framing here. I loved how they're all in line, they're all looking up at the American flag, obviously, and we have the flag up there with the negative space that again only goes to highlight our athletes and our subject more. And then yeah, that was pretty much the entire second senior session from this competition. And yeah, the meet finished. I got to editing and I sent out my gallery. I told y'all I would give y'all the ratio of photos that I took over the entire weekend. I shot 14,148 images over 2 full days of shooting. From those 14,000, I selected and edited 1,381 photos. That was my total kind of ratio. A lot of photographers will kind of emphasize the importance of having a good ratio when you go out to take photos, and then when you come back and edit them and like which ones you select. They really emphasize and they trust the ratio, and like they'll swear by it. But with gymnastics, I feel like it's kind of hard just because it's a very fast-paced sport. So you're shooting at high shutter speeds, and like if you're trying to get a flip or like a specific skill in the air, you're gonna have to start shooting before the actual moment happens. And so you have a lot of images to go through before you find the one from the moment that you wanted. I don't know, me personally, the ratio does not mean anything. Even when I do go out in the street, like with my dad and shoot photos, the ratio, it doesn't mean anything. Like if I see something interesting, something that catches my eye, I'm gonna take a picture of it regardless. I'm not thinking about, oh my gosh, I need this ratio to be good when I go home, otherwise I'm a bad photographer. No, it's not like that. I think that if you're having fun, if you're creating good art that you're proud of, that you like, I think that's as successful as you can get. That's at least my philosophy on this. Super grateful that I was able to shoot this event. I had a lot of fun. It was a super cool experience. I learned a lot. I met a lot of cool people, and it was just a really cool thing that I'm super grateful for. Let me know if y'all enjoyed this style of video where I kind of take y'all through my photos, talk about them a little bit. If you liked the video, let me know what you liked about it. If you didn't like the video, also let me know what you didn't like about it. Like the video, whether you liked it or didn't, just like it. It helps. Subscribe to my channel if you like me or my content. Turn on post notifications so you never miss that new Shots AG video. And follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Shots AG. And if you like me or my work that you saw throughout this video, feel free to check out my website. It's just shotsag.com. We got a new domain, baby. It used to be my full government name, which is super long and it was hard to spell. And now with shotsag.com, straight to the point, it's super easy to find. And check it out. Let me know if y'all like it, if y'all like my portfolio or any of my work. I have to update it. I've been bad about updating both galleries on there and my portfolio, because I think I made my portfolio in like February or late January. I honestly can't remember, but it's been a while since I've updated my portfolio, and I feel like I've gotten a lot better images that that could go in there and better represent my page. So yeah, check it out. Let me know if you like it, let me know if you don't, and that's it for now. I'll catch y'all in the next one.